Good afternoon, and welcome to another Mountain Musings. I know it's been quite a long time since I've put out a Mountain Musings. I've had a variety of family things that I had to take care of, not necessarily bad, just kept me traveling back and forth between here and Lubbock. Also, this subject, the one that we're going to cover today, requires a lot of thought. It's not something that I'm particularly well versed in. And consequently, I decided I wanted to spend more time doing a little research, talking to people, and thinking before I opened my mouth. So it was a bit of a hiatus. However, after consulting with some people and after taking care of some things, I feel ready to resume uh, the mountain musings. And today we're going to continue in the Altered Viewpoint series, and we're going to talk about how we view our fellow Christians, how we view them, how we think about them, and how we relate to them. And this is a particularly important subject matter because I'm going to talk about specifically how we view what some people call neurodivergent Christians and some of the challenges that they face and some of the challenges that we face in understanding and dealing with them. So, I'm going to start off with the scripture, a bit of a lengthy read, but it's an important one. And we'll be reading from 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 21 through 26. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you, and the head cannot say to the feet, I don't need you. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem weaker are indispensable, and the parts that we think are less honorable we treat with special honor, and the parts that are unpresentable are treated with special modesty, while our presentable parts need no special treatment. But God has put the body together, giving greater honor to the parts that lacked it, so that there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, 21 through 26, English Standard Version. So as we consider how God alters or restructures our viewpoint, we have to think about how we view our fellow Christians, how we view the body or the bride of Christ. Now, often, sadly, we kind of bring along our worldly way of doing things, our worldly way of looking at our fellow believers, and consequently, we do not attain to what Christ calls us to. I don't think we do this on purpose, it's just habit. Sadly, we bring along this idea of being just relating with Christ. Part of this may come from the fact that we talk about and seek a personal relationship with the Lord, which is a good thing, but sometimes we do so at the expense of our relationship with others. It may come from our practice focusing on Sunday morning for our worship service. And we do so to the exclusion of gathering together in fellowship at other times of the week. And it may come from our modern compartmentalized way of looking at life in general. I have my church life, my home life, my work life, and all these things mitigate against a vibrant and active body life with our fellow believers. And we need to rethink and allow God to reorder how we view things. This is a process that we often refer to as sanctification. And it takes time, does not happen overnight, but it leads us into a different way of viewing our fellow believers. This change includes how we view and treat our fellow believers. Often, We just simply fall in line with how the world thinks. The world tends to categorize and sort people into some sort of hierarchy. And this has been the way of humans thinking for a long time. Consider what Paul says in verse 22. On the contrary, those parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. Here, Paul speaks out against this world view of categorizing people into some sort of hierarchy. And so we know that this was a problem in the first century. And if we look at the writer of Ecclesiastes, we find that this has probably been the problem for many years before that. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9. You see, the world categorizes people into those who are beautiful, strong, needful, honorable, and discards those who are considers not beautiful, not needful, not strong, not important. And God calls us to a different way of looking at things. He calls us to discard this worldly viewpoint and embrace a new viewpoint. As I said, the world tends to categorize people, saying that some are worthy, some are beautiful, some are useful, and discards those that it thinks are not worthy, not beautiful, or somehow less than useful. And unfortunately, we tend to fall in line. Today, I want to look at this idea of neurodivergence. And don't get me wrong, I am not an expert in this, and I approach this subject with a great deal of trepidation, but I do think it is one that we should think through and seek to address as believers. Generally speaking, the world tends to categorize those who are neurodivergent as to being somehow abnormal, or a poor culture fit, or odd, or different. The Lord calls us to view them differently. Paul says they are indispensable. And we need to think about what it means that my fellow believers are indispensable. Now, as we consider this idea of all parts of the body being indispensable, I found it worthwhile to look at the Greek word. And here I'm going to try and pronounce this. It is ananakia, necessary, essential, vital, something required, or an action that is required. You see, Paul reminds me that all my fellow believers are indispensable. They are not something that I can set aside or not use. They're indispensable to successful body life. Now, we often view the more public people as indispensable, the pastor, the worship leader, and other ministers. We view them as indispensable, and we lift them up, and we tell our children, be like them, and we look to them as an example. Paul says, even those that we may consider weaker are indispensable. He reminds us that God has placed them within the body for his purposes, not for ours. And so when I look over at my brother who views things differently, who sees the world differently, who apprehends reality a bit differently, then I need to remember that they are indispensable. Sometimes when talking about how to interact with people who we lump into the category of neurodivergent, we tend to use the language of accommodation. Oh, we're going to accommodate them. And while that may seem like and find its genesis in being good and loving, I tend to push back against the language of accommodation simply because I don't accommodate any of the parts of my body. Well, I may accommodate my receding hairline. But seriously, all the different parts of my body, those I can see, those I cannot see, those who are presentable, those which are not presentable, I don't accommodate them. I love them. I'm glad they're here. I'm glad all the parts of my body seem to work together in a reasonable fashion. After all, I don't accommodate the little bits and pieces of me. I cherish them. They work together and they allow me to live a reasonably productive and normal life. And we should have a similar view of our fellow Christians. We don't accommodate them. We love them. We cherish them. We rejoice in the fact that they're there. Just like I rejoice in the fact that all the different organs and glands of my body work the way they're supposed to, I should rejoice in the fact that God has built people into the body and that the fact that they are indispensable. They are not something that we can do without. So here in the last few moments, I want to look at some of the ways that we might love our fellow Christians who think and see and perceive the world differently than we do. For example, some parts of the body may not easily hug. They may find that close proximity of physical contact threatening. So if our congregation is one that enjoys setting aside a time to stand and greet one another and perhaps hug, we need to make sure that we include language that lets everyone know that if this is somehow threatening to you, then you don't have to hug. You can refrain. Some parts of the body may find especially loud music threatening. They can't deal with the loud noise of modern worship music. If we find that we're handing out earplugs in the foyer before service, perhaps we might reconsider how loud the music is. Some parts of the body feel very threatened when required to speak out loud and publicly. In a classroom or small group discussion time, we might make sure that they understand and everyone else understands that it's okay just to sit, to listen, and to process. Uh, Verbal interaction is not required. Some parts of the body might find sitting through an entire worship service in the same location very difficult. Perhaps we could make room along the side or in the back so that they can get up and move about a bit while they're listening to a sermon, and making sure that they understand that that's acceptable, and the rest of us understand that they are not being odd or different. That is just how they best perceive and interact with the world. You see, we need to love one another, not accommodate one another. When I say I'm accommodating you, I'm doing two things. Number one, I'm saying that you're not normal. And number two, I'm putting myself in a position of authority or power over them. And that's just not the case. They're part of the body. We don't accommodate them. We love them. And sometimes we love them by making sure that they are welcome to interact in a way that perhaps God has designed them to interact, way that they feel most comfortable interacting with the rest of us. You see, as the body of Christ, we love one another, we cherish one another, and we embrace one another, despite the fact that we're not all the same. We have different ways of doing things. God has built us that way, and we glorify God best when we love one another. We need to remember that all the parts of the body, the ones that make us comfortable, The ones that may challenge us are, as Paul said, indispensable. So, I hope this has been helpful to you. I know that this subject has been challenging to me. If you have a comment or a suggestion, please make it. And hopefully, we'll be able to resume our more steady stream of postings and videos. At the end of the day, I hope that you have a good day.